Welcome to the Palm Beach North podcast, where you get to meet some of our county's most impactful leaders. And today's guest, we are absolutely honored to have Palm Beach County Commissioner Maria Marino. Maria was elected to the Palm Beach County Commission back in 2020. Previous to that, she was a mayor and council member in the city of Palm Beach Gardens for a long time. She wears many hats. She serves on 15 boards and councils all throughout the state. We're so lucky to have her here in our backyard. She's not only a public servant, but she's also a big mentor, a philanthropist, and a big business leader. So please, Maria, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Noel. As we're sitting here, I was reminiscing about actually how long you and I have known each other. And you were in a former role at the chamber. I think you're doing membership.
Yeah, we just said it's been almost 20 years.
Almost 20 years.
Back then I was trying to sell you sponsorships and you bought a ton of them.
Because I was doing philanthropy for Premium Motor Cars. And so we were actually one of the underwriters at Mardi Gras.
Yeah, you were. Absolutely. Yeah. I remember that. A lot has happened in those 20 years,
Quite a few things, yes.
So Maria, I think everybody knows, your engagement here in Palm Beach County, but let's go back a little bit.
Okay.
You're originally from Connecticut, right?
Born and raised, yes.
All right. So tell us about Connecticut. Tell us what you were like as a kid.
Well, I was born in Norwalk, Connecticut, and I went to the same high school as my dad, went to the same college as my dad, University of Connecticut. My dad and I even had the same Latin teacher in high school, was a cheerleader, was a letterman in sports. As a matter of fact, was doing a fundraiser a couple of years ago locally and was dressed up and wore my letterman jacket, which still fits, knock on wood. But I was a cheerleader, and I think it's funny, too, because I feel like I'm a cheerleader now for our county. But I was a golfer, but only playing in the winter.
Wait a second. There aren't too many cheerleaders that golf. So you played golf and were a cheerleader.
No, actually, back then, I wasn't playing golf in high school.
Okay.
So I was a cheerleader, ran track, played volleyball and softball.
So you were a jock.
Did gymnastics.
So you were a
big
big jock, huh?
Always been, yeah.
Good. And you talked a little bit about your parents. I know that you have a very special relationship with your parents.
Yeah.
So talk to us about your parents. What are they like?
Well, my mom and dad will be married 68 years in January.
That's amazing.
Mom is 88, dad is 91. Mom played 18 holes of golf on Sunday.
She beat you yet? Can she still beat you?
No, but she can beat a whole lot of people. Trust me when I say that. She's so determined. It's fabulous. And I love my parents. My parents, I moved them in with me about 5 years ago, and I think that as life progresses, we have to figure out what's important. And for me, family has always been the most important thing in my life.
So, traditions. Are there any Marino family traditions that we should know about?
Oh, the 7 fishes, you mean, for Christmas Eve? Oh, yeah.
What else? What do you guys do when you're not watching golf on TV or they're not rooting for you?
It's all about family. Whether we're going to my brother's house or my nephew's house, and we're the wedding thing now because my youngest nephew is getting married in February, so we're all trucking up there. But I mean, for us, it's just family dinner all the time. That's the tradition. There's always food in the house. You could come over any time of the day or night. My mother will cook you food.
I love that. So you mentioned nephews. So you have brother or sister or both?
I have one brother and he has 2 boys. So I introduced his wife, my sister-in-law, as the mother of my children because I wasn't able to have kids. But when people ask me about that, I always say, well, I have 120 kids because of the NW Runner Tutorial Center.
That's right. Yeah, you want to talk a little bit about that? You've been involved with them for a long, long time. Talk to us about that.
Well, actually, I came to be involved with Edna because I am now retired from being executive director of the Jupiter Children's Foundation, where we used to raise money through a golf tournament. Gee, I wonder why we used a golf tournament to raise money. But we did that, and we didn't want to reinvent the wheel, so we located some schools in the Jupiter area that were for at-risk kids. So Edna's school is a tutorial center, after-school care, and then we also did the Thelma B. Pittman preschool for, during the school hours. And in my role as executive director for the Jupiter Children's Foundation, I would just write the checks, which had no strings attached. Oftentimes when you're writing a check, a grant check of some kind, it's for a particular program or for capital improvement or to buy computers or something like that. But when I was writing a $20,000 or $25,000 check, it had no strings attached. If a teacher needed a raise in their salary, they got it. If they needed to keep the lights on, and there aren't enough foundations and organizations that actually give you unrestricted dollars. So I was always happy to be able to do that. And through that, I came just to love Edna and the school and what they did. So basically, I've been on the board for 20 years or so, past president and all that.
There's such a little crown jewel in the Palm Beach North region. I mean, they're up in Jupiter. We know all about them because they're so engaged in the chamber, and Edna is just one of those people that you just want to hug every time you see her. She's
Edna's
one of
the Pied Piper. She really is.
Oh my goodness.
So she's done so much with those kids, and she's personally involved. And when I say that, I mean, she grew up in that area. She knows all the families. If a kid doesn't show up at school, she'll call or knock on their door and say, "Why weren't you here today?" kind of thing. So she really adopted the entire community. And that spirit is, and she's retiring, Did you know that?
Yeah, I did know that. Yeah, I didn't know if we could say it, but yeah, I did know.
Yeah,
I did
it's
know
official. That. The paperwork went out. We got a notice and everything. But she holds that community together, but at a certain point in time, you have to turn the reins over. So Travis, her nephew, is going to be the new executive director.
He's another great leader. We know him very well, and he's done a great job there for many years and is going to do some great things for that organization. So
those are my 120 kids.
120 kids. So let's go back a little bit. We'll come to Jupiter and South Florida in a little bit, but I want people to learn a little bit more about you back in the day. So University of Connecticut, right? You went there. Your father went there, so that's probably why you went there, right? Is that?
I did, but I got a degree in business and labor.
I was going to ask you that. Okay.
I did. So I have a business degree, and I thought I was going to be a contract negotiator. And then, I'm a 40-year self-employed person, not negotiating contracts, and thinking, "What? I never needed that." Well, here I am now at the county, and pretty much we're always talking about different contracts and why we're changing them, or why we're amending them, or why we're giving them more dollars, or why we're changing the dates, or something like that. So it's kind of interesting that it all comes together in the end.
Did you play golf in college?
That's when I started, and I started because of my mom. She was playing one summer, and I said, "Why are you playing and I'm not?" And she said, "Well, go get some clubs." So I did, and there was a little par 3 course around the corner from.
In high school or in college you started playing golf?
Like between high school and college.
Between high school and college.
Yeah. And I just, the first time I put my hands on the club, I'm like, "Oh, I can do this, no problem." And actually got good relatively quickly. So played only in the summer though, because I'm in Connecticut. I'm, going to school in Connecticut and working and doing all that all together. And finally, one of the pros at one of the courses at home said, "Well, if you want to get any better, you got to go to Florida." And he says, "I happen to have a Glenwood at PGA National." And I went, "Oh, that's nice." He goes, "And it's empty, so you can go and stay." And the assistant pro said, "Well, I used to have a job at PGA, so I can get you a job there." I'm like, "Oh, great. I got a place to live, a job and everything." I pack up my little red sports car. I drive to Florida. I unpack. And the pro calls me the next day and says, "Oh, by the way, my place is rented tomorrow. You got to find someplace else to live today." And literally went and found an apartment in what is Devonshire in PGA National.
Yep.
Back then it was just condos.
Mm-hmm.
So rented one. It was unfurnished. I had to go rent furniture, which now that I look back and I hear the name that I'm going to say out loud, it kind of it freaks me out. But I rented furniture from a place called Swingles.
Swingles. I've never even heard of that.
Yeah, you can Google, because I Googled it the other day. I'm like, and they were bought by another company. But, it took a week to get the furniture. So basically I slept on the floor for a week, and whatever ancillary, whatever lights were on in the apartment were the lights that I had. I bought some towels and pillows and stuff like that. So, but you're young and stupid. So, then I worked at PGA.
Doing what? What were you doing at PGA?
I was a cart rat.
So just loading bags?
I was
cleaning clubs as people were coming in?
I pulled clubs out of bags, and it was so funny too, because sometimes people would show up, guys would show up, and I'd go to pull the, "Oh, you don't have to do that." And they would do it themselves, but they would give me a tip anyway. It was hysterical. And then I was also, back then, range balls were on a table, and they didn't have any machines that dispensed them. So I was also giving range balls to people, and I had a bag tag on, and it said Marino, Norwalk, Connecticut. And there was a pro that came up to me and said, "You're from Connecticut?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Well, I'm from the Patterson Club in Fairfield." I went, "Really?" He goes, "Do you need a summer job?" So basically I went back that was 85. I went back home for the summer and worked at the Patterson Club, won the Connecticut State Women's Amateur Championship that summer, came back to Florida, and with not a lot of experience, turned pro and found it that it really wasn't my cup of tea.
Why was it not your cup? What was it about it? You're like, this isn't for me.
Well, I didn't have the kind of killer instinct you need to be in a solo professional sport. When it had to do with my teams, when we were playing in pro-ams, my teams would always win because I'm the tour director. I come to find out doing a bunch of personality tests. I'm the one that wants everybody to be happy. So I would always, my pro-am teams would always win, but me individually, I didn't care. It wasn't important.
So you did that for how long were you in the golf industry?
3 years.
3 years?
3 years playing. And then I was actually leaving for a golf tournament and I dislocated my kneecap on the driving range at PGA National.
Oh my God, that sounds painful.
Well, you know what? It sounded like a dry tree snap. And so I was like, you're just trying to tell me. I looked up at the sky and went, you're just trying to tell me something, aren't you? So that's when I went from playing competitively to being in the business of golf and becoming a golf consultant and rising through the ranks with the LPGA and getting all of my credentials and, being an officer with the LPGA and being asked to be one of 5 people on their national marketing team. And it's been an interesting combination, golf, business, and philanthropy. It's like this 3-legged stool and everything all works together. Mm-hmm. And getting into politics was never, ever, 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 ever on the radar. Ever.
Well, we're going to talk about how you got into that as well. But you mentioned philanthropy. So let's talk about a little bit more about the Jupiter Children's Foundation. I know that you were with them for almost 20 years.
Yeah. Well,
right. And raised over 2 million,
over
2 million, which is no small feat.
From one little golf tournament.
Yeah, that's amazing. So tell me about that organization and why it was so important to you. I mean, you were there 20 years.
Well, it's funny because the Jupiter Children's Foundation actually grew out of the development of the Bears Club. And when the Bears Club were getting their final approvals through the town of Jupiter, the development team said, we'd like to give something back to the town. And so what ended up happening was several of the members of the development team and the mayor of the town of Jupiter started a foundation. And they brought me on to actually run their golf tournament. And seeing that it was not something that you could really just do that, they brought me on to be executive director, which is a glorified way of saying I got paid $500 a month for 20 years. I mean, that was it. So it wasn't a job, a full-time job, but it was a full-time love. And we hosted the tournament the first 6 years at the Bears Club, and then we decided to move around a little bit, and we were at what was then Ritz-Carlton. We've been at Old Marsh, Loblolly, Lost Tree, and most of them were Nicklaus design golf courses because the family, and we were the first organization actually to write a check to the newly founded Nicklaus Children's Healthcare Foundation.
Is it still around, Jupiter Children's Foundation?
We are going to have a tournament this year, actually, October 23rd at Old Marsh. Thank you for asking.
There you go. I didn't know that. So
yeah, I am. As an elected official, it's really hard to be, and people don't understand this. It's hard to be on boards in a fundraising capacity because we have limited ways of which we can ask people for money. It's fine if you're running a campaign that you could ask people for money, but they really do. And I have written for IG opinions because I don't want, you want clarity, you want transparency, mm-hmm. and you never want somebody saying, well, you donated, so I
you have to
a favor.
So people probably don't realize this. You have to ask whether or not you could do things
correct
all the time.
And I am because I don't want I gave up. Basically, I retired from everything to be an elected official, to be a county commissioner, because I took the role on as a full-time role. And so I gave up my real estate company, which I had for a bunch since 1996. I've had my license. So I gave up my real estate company and I gave up the Jupiter Children's Foundation. But I'm still a professional golfer because that's, that has no conflict with anything. And it's a bonus. I mean, there are a lot of decisions I make as a county commissioner that I've been able to educate the rest of our commission because of my position as a professional golfer and because of my position knowing what's going on in the golf industry and my many years with the United States Golf Association. Like that's 30 years, 20 years as a member of the Golf Writers Association of America, almost 30 years in the LPGA. So it gives me a really broad background on tourism and bringing tourism dollars to the county for golf. So, you got to use your skills you got.
So you always have a gazillion things going on. I mean, just in this conversation, we've talked about a million different things. What do you do to unwind? Like, what do you do to disconnect and just kind of get
Candy
lost
Crush.
for a little bit? Candy Crush.
Candy Crush.
I do see you post things with Candy Crush every once in a while.
That's my guilty pleasure. But
Candy Crush.
I read so much.
All right, favorite book. What was the last book you read?
Oh, who knows? I don't even know. Probably some trash.
Okay.
Actually, it's usually historical fiction that I read. I want to learn as I'm reading, but I don't want to have to tire my brain because I do that every day. I mean, I read thousands of pages a week for county commission. So, and I like things that are short. And once it's over, it's gone. It's like, I read it, I'm done. Don't ask me about it tomorrow because I won't remember.
Yeah. So, all right, let's talk about.
And golf, I love to play
golf. You still
golf
enjoy
with my
it?
family.
You still enjoy golf? I mean, because after working
funny.
in it, it's like kind of those things, right? You enjoy it until you have to do it every day, until it's not fun anymore, right? When it becomes work, it's not as fun.
I don't miss because people think, oh, you're a professional golfer, you must play all the time. This Sunday was probably the 4th time I played 18 holes all year. But what I love doing is, and I do it for the chamber, is standing on a tee box doing Beat the Pro. And it is so much fun because I get to meet everybody who plays. And we can talk trash if we want. And I can embarrass some of the guys that think they're really good. And I can help some of the other players that aren't so good. And
that's me.
It is.
You always try to help me, but it hasn't worked.
But it's a really, really fun way to do advocacy for whatever charitable cause I'm supporting that day, whether it's for you or it's the Hanley Foundation or, there's like 30 of them that I do. Edna. So just standing on a tee box, meeting everybody, the chamber, the BDB, I do that for all of them. And it's also, like I said, it's a great way to meet everybody who's playing.
So you talked a little bit about the chamber, and that's one of the many, many organizations that you're involved with. You and I both have a special spot in our heart for leadership Palm Beach County. A couple years ago, or maybe last year, you won the Leadership Excellence Award.
Just this past May, 2023. Yeah.
That's a big deal.
I was shocked.
Take me back to that moment. I was there that night and I remember looking at you, you really had no clue that this was coming.
I had no clue. And it was funny because I was walking in with Vicki Choris, who is with South Florida Fair, who was also a 2010 grad along with me. And as we're walking in, I said, Vicki, you're going to win this. She goes, no, Maria, you're going to win it. So, we both just love each other. And it was just, I think I was talking to Brittany, who was sitting next to me. Brittany Cartwright was sitting next to me. Mm-hmm. They're getting ready to call the names and I'm talking to her. I'm just like not even paying attention because I'm thinking, there's 9 people. We've all done such important things for the community. It's hard to rank any of them. And when they called my name, I was like, I turned and I went, you could see my face. I turned, I went, and Whitney was like pushing at me and I'm like,
go get up
and
there.
I went like this, and I went off. I had absolutely no words. I mean, I didn't have anything prepared because I'm in a room of leaders. And so how do you pick one above the other?
Yeah.
But I'm honored that I was chosen. It's not something I take lightly.
So you are also very engaged in the Palm Beach North Chamber. You have for many, many years. We talked about it a little bit. We, a few years back, started a woman in business mentorship program. And from day one, you have been serving as a mentor to a lot of amazing women in not just Palm Beach North, in the whole region. Who are some women that have inspired you throughout your career? and has been a big mentor to you?
Well, that's really easy. It's my mom.
Why?
She's one of the most brilliant people I know. She's a strategist, which ironically we have to be, especially as an elected official, you have to be able to make a decision and know what all of the consequences are of that decision. Not just the intended, but the unintended. And you really have to think far ahead. And she's very good at that. And she taught me that. She's also given me a lot of things to think about. She always said, what's the worst case scenario? If you do this, what is the worst case scenario? Can you live with the worst case scenario? If you can, jump right in. When I ran for county commission, what was the worst case scenario? Worst case scenario is what? I had to resign from Palm Beach Gardens. And if I lost my race, I was basically out of, I hate the word politics, but I was out of being an elected official. I would have hated it, but I accepted it because I had so many people that said to me, Maria, you really need to run for county commission. And I was endorsed by both sides of the aisle. And I still have support from both sides of the aisle. And I have a lot of people say, Maria, it is obvious that you're a consensus builder. And that's really what my biggest role as a county commissioner has been, is building consensus.
So you started in public service in the city of Palm Beach Gardens. Where did that come from? How did that, you just woke up one day and said, I want to run for city council?
No, it goes back to Bremen Motor Cars.
Okay.
So we were sponsoring a hole-in-one at the Mayor's Veterans Golf Classic, and it was at Sand Hill Crane.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was standing on a tee box, and it was the council at the time was standing around. They said, term limits are going to get voted in. I wonder who we can get to run. I went, oh, I will. And then I turned and I went both sides. I went, oh, who said that? And they looked at me and went, you said it. You'd be perfect. You know everybody, So I threw my hat into the ring. But before I did that, to get better acquainted with the city, because my thought was, I've done so much for so many people, but not for my own city. So I then was appointed to the Parks and Rec Advisory Board, sort of a no-brainer, being a professional athlete.
Mm-hmm.
But I was also appointed to the clubhouse task force, because we were in the process of designing and building a new clubhouse out at the golf course. So they brought in several golfers with different kinds of experience to be on the task force for the clubhouse. And that was how I got started with meeting all the folks that work for the city of Palm Beach Gardens, including Ron Ferris, who is an awesome city manager. Awesome.
Yes.
I mean, I hear it from all over the state, and a lot of people like, oh, that darn Ron Ferris, because he thinks outside the box, and he's very well thought of, and he does such a great job. And he's
I could ever get him on here?
No
chance.
No, Ron does not want to be in front of the mic.
Chance. No chance at all.
But he talk about mentors. So you asked me about mentors.
Yeah.
My mom was a personal mentor.
Mm-hmm.
Ron Ferris really showed me what it is to be an elected official who works for the people, not for themselves.
It's funny. I feel the same way about him, and I'm not an elected official, right? But, in my role, I deal with 10 municipalities, the county, a lot of elected officials, 10, city town managers, 10 mayors, and I'll bounce things off of him all the time. And he always gives me good advice. Doesn't mean we always agree, right? We don't always agree on things, but he definitely has kind of mentored me in my role at the chamber as CEO for a while. So I agree with you. He's a pretty awesome guy.
And if you ask Chelsea Reed who her mentor is, she'll tell you me.
She will.
She'll tell you I'm the one that got her into politics.
She's another great leader.
She is.
She's another one. And she's someone I definitely have to get on the show for sure.
Oh, yeah. You could have us both together again. That would be hysterical, the two of us.
We'd be here all day.
There won't be any air left in the room.
We'll be here all day. It'll be like a 10-hour podcast. So, all right. So now you've served on the city council in Palm Beach Gardens, right? And now you're a Palm Beach County Commissioner, right?
Oh, what is that?
Yeah, what is that? So what are the differences between both seats?
Oh my God, the differences are massive.
I could imagine. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I went from 60,000 people to 1.5 million people. I went from no districts, because we're voted at large in the city, to 7 districts in the county. And we are a county that is so diverse. We go from the richest of rich on the island of Palm Beach to the poorest of poor, Belglade, Pahokee, South Bay. And I don't want to characterize them as that because no matter where you are in this county, we're wonderful people.
Yep.
And we try all to work together. And the county does support municipalities that might need a hand, whether it's through police and fire, roadway, whatnot. But our county is close to 2,400 square miles.
Yeah.
I mean, we're bigger than 2 states. Our budget is bigger than 6 states.
Biggest county east of the Mississippi.
By land mass.
By land mass. Okay.
By land mass. Yeah. You've heard me say this before. I said this at, several of our meetings because, when asked what's the difference between city and county, we have more on our plate at the county, more issues that we cover. I mean, not just police, not just fire. We have health, even though people pay a separate amount on their tax bill to the healthcare district. We partner with the healthcare district for facilities, the prisons, roadway networks, South Florida Water Management District and the county work together on projects. Solid Waste Authority is an enterprise fund within the county. The airports are enterprise funds within the county. The Water Utilities Department, which doesn't really service our neck of the woods, it services more down south, is a enterprise fund for the county. So all of those add up to our $7 billion budget, which, and the city of Palm Beach Gardens, I think, is near 300 million.
Yeah.
So that's
a pretty big difference. So Palm Beach County's busting at the seams, right?
Yes.
I think we're at almost 1.6 million.
Getting there.
By 2030, we're going to be at 1.8. I dropped the paper with the statistics on the floor. No. But I mean, it's great that we're growing. It's great because we live, and I know I'm sound biased because I'm the chamber CEO, right? But we live where everybody wants to be.
We live in paradise.
We've got the best golf courses, the best mall. We've got the best beaches. I mean, the best restaurants. We've got it all. Quality of life is second to none here, especially in Palm Beach North.
We have the most golf courses in a county in the country here in Palm Beach.
I knew that.
And if you're on PJ Boulevard, there's 10 golf courses right there.
Yeah.
Right at the intersection of PJ and the Turnpike.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy. So with all that growth comes some really big challenges.
School, housing, roadway, transportation, you name it, we got it.
So what is our biggest issue? You just named 5 of them right there and then. What is the biggest issue that we have right now in the county?
Well, they all work together. Mm-hmm. Obviously, people will say to you, housing is the biggest issue. Okay, so in order to accommodate housing, we need to have a roadway network that can accommodate more traffic. And if we have more housing, we're going to have more families, which means we have to accommodate more schools. So basically, they are all part of the same equation. So it's really an analysis of the land that's available. Who has that land? What is that land scheduled to be for? Because once you take it out of your portfolio, if you will, say the county has acreage in their portfolio because we know we're going to grow to 1.8 million, 2 million. If we get rid of land now that we're going to use in the future so we can expand because we have to provide services, if we get rid of that land, it's never coming back to us. Mm-hmm. And we've been asked by a lot of agencies to do an inventory of our lands and what's surplus. I've said we need to do an inventory. We need to have FDOT do an inventory of their lands because those lands that, they've acquired a lot of roadway networking and a lot of right of ways. Anytime they change a project and they, lessen it in scale, they still have all that right of way that they've acquired. That right of way should become industrial land. And this way, because if we take all of our industrial and commercial because of SB 102, Save Our Homes Act, mm-hmm. and turn that into residential, now we're getting rid of our commercial and our industrial. So it's a delicate balance, and we have to be very careful not to do something that has unintended consequences. So it's a lot of work. It's a lot of homework.
Oh yeah, totally. Absolutely.
So to answer your question, they are all as important as the other.
So what is Palm Beach County going to look like in 5 to 10 years?
Well,
It's changed so much. Like I remember when I first moved to Palm Beach County, I lived out on the acreage off of North Lake Boulevard, and you drive down North Lake Boulevard, and they were just building the Ibis Publix back then,
mm-hmm.
right? So think about that. Now you've got Avenir, you've got Panther National coming in, which I hear is pretty much done. I heard it's done. At least the golf course is. The golf course is done. We've got the Nest out there at Sand Hill Crane.
That's so much fun, by the way. That par 3 is fabulous.
It is.
And that 2-tiered practice facility.
It's pretty cool.
Wonderful.
It's really cool.
It's something we needed in this neck of the woods.
Oh, yeah. And that's a public course. People don't realize that's a public course.
You can play 18 holes, regulation. You can play 18 holes, par 3. Mm-hmm. You've got 2 clubhouses. And it's to grow the game of golf, and I'll put my golf hat on for a second. To grow the game of golf, you really need to grow it through the family network. And you need to get kids involved. And there's lots of ways. I mean, one of the few boards I'm on, because I have no financial responsibility in writing, is the First Tee of the Palm Beaches. And, they partner with Sand Hill Crane and a lot of other local golf courses to grow the game of golf. But what I love about that is that's not just growing the game of golf. It's actually the 9 core values make you a better person.
What are those 9 core values?
Oh, I knew you were going to quiz me on that one.
Should I not have asked that?
Respect, responsibility, integrity, sportsmanship. Those are just a few of them. But you really learn how to be a better person and how to deal with people in all kinds of situations.
Okay. Yeah, we got back to golf. So Palm Beach County.
Sorry. 10,
15 years from now, what's it going to look like? Is it going to be flying cars coming, zooming by?
Isn't that funny? We talk about the Jetsons, and if you look at
it's gonna be us.
Look at what the Jetsons were, they used to do telemed on the Jetsons, right?
Yeah.
Well, we're doing telemed.
Yeah, they used to talk to screens.
They plugged in their vehicles. Well, we're plugging in our vehicles. So, you know what? Maybe the Jetsons aren't so far off. We'll have, you give me one of those backpacks that are battery operated and let me fly across. I'll do that. I mean, I've jumped off a building. You've jumped off with me.
I have.
I'm not afraid of heights.
We have done that. That's right. That was a fun day.
That was
a lot of fun day. So what, I think it's important that we get the right people to run for office, right? I think that's a big part. That's a big part of what Chamber of Commerce's should be doing. And they are doing. We're trying our best to help mold, shape, develop the future leaders of our community. What can we do to find better people to run for office?
Well, I think from my perspective and what probably makes me the type of elected official that you're looking for, and I'm not patting myself on the back, is the fact that I was a business owner. I was also an independent contractor. If I didn't work, I didn't get paid. I didn't put money in my 401k. I didn't pay my health insurance. So you need to be able to have that kind of experience to understand the decisions that we make at the local level. And I think it should be local level and then state and then national. I don't think because you don't want to go directly to the state and start making decisions for the local level, because we have something called home rule. We have, as the state legislature gave us, the ability to rule ourselves as a county, and all the municipalities have the ability to rule themselves. And a lot of times the state will give us unfunded mandates. They'll tell us we have to do this, but they won't give us the money to do it. We need people that are doing it for the right reasons. Doesn't matter what your political party is. You need to be there because you need to be making the best decision for the people that put you there.
What advice would you give someone that is thinking about running for office, that maybe one day I want to run for that county commission seat or that city council seat or the state house seat?
Well, first off, talk to their local electeds. See if there's maybe a board or a council that they can sit on so they can learn the process. And, a lot of times people get elected and they may never have even been on a board. They don't know Robert's rules. They don't know policies and procedures. They don't even know that those things are in place. And I'm not saying that the way I went about it is the best way. I mean, basically, I had no idea I was getting into politics. So, later in my life, as I should be close to retirement, I'm an elected official. But
And probably working way
way
harder now than you ever have
way
before.
harder. But I absolutely love what I do. I get up every morning and I love what I do.
Why is it so rewarding? Or what is the most rewarding part of your job as a Palm Beach County Commissioner?
Helping people, solving people's problems. Give
me an example. What do people call Maria Marino's office for? I've got this issue.
Oh my heavens. Well,
I don't know. I don't know. I'm not a county commissioner.
It ranges. It varies. Some people call because they're having an issue with planning and zoning. And, sometimes that's just a question of something got read wrong, and we're all human. We can make human mistakes. We only see the complaints, but I've gotten some letters from people just recently where, they're, thank you for taking the time to see me. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you for agreeing with our group, how we feel. I can't give you specific examples because they sort of all run together, and basically just I weigh every decision I make, and I make the decisions that I feel are the best for the most amount of people. I don't want to make a decision for a loud, vocal minority, but they're loud and they're vocal, when that decision will negatively impact many, many, many more people. And I've weighed that. And we weighed that here right in Palm Beach Gardens when we, finished Shady Lakes Boulevard. Mm-hmm. Now, you would never know that we had gotten a lot of opposition to punching Shady Lakes through all the way to 117. And it was from the residents in Shady Lakes who were, used to not having a through street. Mm-hmm. The road dead ended. It was basically a private road for them, but it was always on the city's transportation plan that it was going to punch through to 117th. And we got a lot of opposition, but I looked at that and I said, do I take into account the 50 houses, or do I take into account the thousands of kids that are going to the schools that they only have one in or out? Yeah. It could still get kind of hairy there during. So I had to weigh what I thought was going to benefit the most amount of people. And that is always how I made my decisions. You know what? I wanted to talk to you about the TPA. Okay. A lot of people don't know what the Transportation Planning Agency does. And I know you're vice chair, and I know you're very proud of the work that you guys are doing. Can you talk to us about the organization, what it does, and why it's so important to our community? We look at the county globally. Mm-hmm. Okay, so it made me think of it because you said we were talking about transportation traffic, so it made me think of it. That's fine. So, I'm secretary to Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council. I'm chair of Palomar Water Control District. I'm on the board for Florida Association of Counties. I'm on a chair for a committee for National Association of Counties. So that's part of the 15 elected do this but I love what I'm doing. So, and I volunteer for the leadership roles. You could just sit on a board, you don't have to be in a leadership position. But going back to TPA is we get federal dollars to fund in local initiatives. And we look at things from the perspective of how does this affect traffic from here to Belglade? We need streetlights on State Road 80. So we fought for streetlights on State Road 80 to save lives. As a matter of fact, Shady Lakes Boulevard got some money because it's considered a complete street, which is a street that tries to take into consideration traffic, pedestrians, noise, curbing of speed. That's why you'll see it kind of meanders. It's not a straightaway road. Mm-hmm. We deal with bringing together the different networks, the different transportation networks. So Tri-Rail will come and talk to us. Brightline comes and talks to us. PalmTran talks to us. And then we will partner with them with different projects or different pilots. And we're doing a project right now. We're partnering with PalmTran and St. Lucie County because we're going to run a bus from from a terminal in St. Lucie to a terminal here in West Palm. And if you can run a bus twice a day or something like that, you basically take 200 cars off the road every day with this bus that's going. And we're going to do a pilot program to see if people ride it, if they will pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
We got a grant from the state to do it, and getting grants are all well and good. But once the grant is over, now you've got to find ways to continue to fund that project. And I don't, I just orchestrated the largest millage rate decrease in the county in 30 years.
Talk to us about that.
That was a tough one. But
why was it so tough? What was tough about it?
Well, I can put on both hats, being a disciple of Ron Ferris and also learning from Virginia Baker. I can be on, we need reserve dollars because if something happens, we need to have a bucket to take that money out of. But I can also say, well, yes, that's all well and good, but that's taxpayer dollars. I would rather see those dollars. If we don't need them, I don't think we need to ask our taxpayers for them right now. And so I went through the budget, and our budget is 1,300 pages. And you all have heard me always say this. I do read everything that comes across my desk. But I looked at it and I went, there's a lot of ways that we can save money. And it wasn't that I cut any programs. I didn't cut in my request. There was no cutting of services, no cutting of salaries, because our staff are what staff is like right now, finding good people and keeping good people. Mm-hmm. I mean, the workforce is at a crunch right now. So we were in the position financially where we put $70 million into reserves last year. We were projected to put 150 something, 53, I think, or 56 into reserves this year. And I said, that's an awful lot of money. I don't think we need to take that big of a pot to do that. But I don't want to see anything happen to any of the services that we provide. I just don't want to put as much money into reserves. So it's not a tax. It effectively is a tax cut, but what it truly is a millage rate cut. So what you get charged per the value of your home is less this year than it was last year. And I know that a lot of cities have followed suit. Gardens did, Jupiter also. So, hopefully everything went up. And that was how I prefaced it. Everything has gone up. People's insurance, their homeowners insurance is crazy.
It's crazy.
The electric bill has gone up. The amount of money your gas has gone up. Your insurance on your car has gone up. Everything has gone up. If we have an opportunity to return some dollars to our taxpayers, I want to do that. And people have to understand, though, when they look at their tax bill, there are a lot of line items on your tax bill. The county is only one district collecting money. You're paying if you live in the city of Palm Beach Gardens, you're paying to the county, you're paying to the city, you're paying to the school board, you're paying to the healthcare district, you're paying to Florida Inland Navigation District, and so on. There's a lot of special districts. But from the county perspective, I was doing my job as a watchdog for our taxpayers and fought to get our millage rate lowered. And luckily, the rest of the board agreed with me.
Well, that's good news. Good news. Well, we are running out of time, and I try to ask.
We did that already?
Yes.
Gosh.
We are. I told you we could be here all day.
What'd you miss that you wanted to ask?
I missed a million things, but we talked about a lot of things that I wanted to talk about. So
I'll come back.
Yeah, we could do that. We'll definitely do that. So one last question. I ask everybody the same question. And the question is, if you could go back and give Maria Marino, that cheerleader in high school, you could give her some advice, what would you give her? What would you tell her?
Wow. Good question. Take advantage of every experience that comes in front of you, because you never know if it is or isn't going to come in front of you again.
That's good advice.
Yeah. That's
great advice. All right. One last thing. Anything else you want to say before we go? Anything else you want to make sure everybody hears?
Am I allowed to say I'm running for re-election?
You can. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Say it.
I am very happy to be running for re-election, but as term limits, this is my last term. It will be my last term because we have 2 4-year terms in the county. As a matter of fact, the state legislature is trying to get that throughout the state, that'll be, and then I'll be term limited out. But I absolutely love what I'm doing, and I hope that the constituents feel the same way. And if you don't have my newsletter, please email me at mmarino@pbcgov.org, and I will put you on my newsletter because there's a lot of great information, and we have a really good open rate.
You do. I'm one of those people that open that newsletter. So thank you so much, Maria. Thank you, Commissioner, for your service. Thank you for everything you do for the chamber, for our community, for our region, for our county. We really appreciate you. And again, thank you so much for being here today.
You're welcome. Thanks, Noel.